Maya Ross worked as a secretary at Alden and Hughes, a bustling corporate office in the heart of the city. She wasn't like the other women who roamed the hallways in their tailored suits and perfect makeup. No, Maya was different. Her frizzy hair seemed immune to every attempt at taming it, her makeup often smudged, and her eyebrows, well, she never got around to shaping them like everyone else. She'd learned to live with the quiet, judgmental looks from her colleagues, but deep down, it hurt. The cruel whispers behind her back were impossible to ignore. It wasn't just her appearance they mocked. It was the way she walked, the way she spoke softly in meetings as if she didn't deserve to be heard. They called her frumpy, a mess. But no matter what they said, Maya buried herself in her work, her heart aching from the loneliness and the harshness of their words. However, despite the pain, she held on to a dream. She was hopelessly in love with her boss, Liam Hughes. He was everything she wasn't: handsome, kind-hearted, confident, and effortlessly charming. He had a presence that commanded attention, but it wasn't his looks that drew her in. It was the moments she saw him helping others, the way he treated everyone with respect, the way he spoke softly to people when they needed comfort. For years, Maya admired him from afar, wishing for just a fragment of his attention. But it never came. Liam was always with Sophie, the stunning PR executive who seemed to have it all. Tall, blonde, and radiantly beautiful, Sophie moved through life like a queen, always dressed in the latest fashion, always the center of attention. It seemed as though Liam adored her, and Maya's heart sank every time she saw them together. Yet, behind Sophie's dazzling smile, there was something Maya sensed but couldn't quite place. Their relationship wasn't as perfect as it seemed. One particularly rough afternoon, Maya sat at her desk trying to focus, but her thoughts were everywhere. Sophie had just glided through the office, her laughter echoing through the walls, and Liam had followed her with the same adoring look he always had. Maya sighed and pressed her fingers to her temples, wondering how someone like Sophie could even begin to appreciate a man like Liam. As the day dragged on, a new voice interrupted her thoughts. "Hey there, Maya." Maya glanced up to see Clara, the new administrative assistant, leaning against her desk. Clara had only joined a few weeks ago, but she was already a breath of fresh air in Maya's world. Her friendly demeanor and genuine smile had quickly made her the one person Maya felt comfortable around. "Do you want to grab coffee later?" Clara asked casually, flashing her usual warm grin. Maya blinked, startled. Sure," she replied hesitantly. It wasn't often people asked her to do anything after work. That evening, they sat in a quiet corner of a cozy cafe, sipping lattes as the city buzzed around them. For the first time in years, Maya felt herself opening up, talking about her struggles at work and the relentless bullying she faced. Clara listened intently, her expression softening with every word. "You know, Maya," Clara said thoughtfully, "you deserve to feel good about yourself, and you can. You just need a little help." Maya gave her a doubtful look. "I'm not like the others. I don't have the time or energy to look like them." Clara shook her head. "That's not what I mean. You don't need to change who you are. You just need to see your own worth, and that can start with taking care of yourself. Why don't you let me help you? We'll take it one step at a time." Maya hesitated, but Clara's sincerity was hard to resist. So, over the next few weeks, Clara became more than just a friend. She became a mentor. Together, they embarked on a journey of self-discovery. Clara showed Maya simple ways to take better care of her appearance, but more importantly, she helped her realize the beauty of self-respect and confidence. At first, it was small changes, learning how to style her unruly hair, using makeup that enhanced rather than hid her features, and taking time for herself outside of work. Maya began to feel lighter, more comfortable in her own skin. The transformation wasn't instant, but it was steady. One day, As Maya entered the office, something shifted. People no longer looked through her, and even the whispers seemed to die down. She wasn't invisible anymore. But the most unexpected change was in Liam. At first, it was a glance that lingered a little longer than usual, followed by a conversation in the break room where he seemed to take genuine interest in her thoughts. For the first time ever, Maya felt seen by the man she had admired for so long. Her heart raced with every interaction, but doubt still lingered. Was this real? Could he really be noticing her? Or was she just imagining things? But before she could allow herself to dream, reality struck. Liam's relationship with Sophie was still very much alive. And despite the cracks in their seemingly perfect relationship, Maya couldn't ignore the fact that he wasn't free. One evening, after overhearing a heated argument between Liam and Sophie, Maya's suspicions were confirmed. Their relationship was far from the fairy tale it appeared to be. Sophie was controlling, manipulative, and jealous. It became clear that their love had long faded, replaced by toxic arguments and resentment. Still, Maya knew better than to get her hopes up. She wasn't the kind of woman who stepped into someone else's love life, no matter how broken it seemed. Yet, fate had a funny way of working. The cracks in Liam and Sophie's relationship would soon grow into a chasm, and Maya would be left standing at the edge, torn between the love she had quietly nurtured for years and the reality she had never dared to hope for. But for now, Maya remained patient, her heart a secret that only she and Clara shared, waiting for the moment when life would finally give her the chance to be seen for who she truly was. As the weeks turned into months, Maya's quiet transformation continued. She no longer felt the sting of cruel whispers or mocking stares at work. People had stopped treating her like an afterthought. She walked through the office with her head held a little higher, and it was undeniable that Liam had begun to notice her more. But Maya was cautious. Even though Liam's relationship with Sophie seemed strained, they were still together, and Maya wasn't about to get caught in the middle of it. She buried herself in her work, trying to focus on her growing confidence, on the small victories she achieved each day. But it was hard when Liam was so close, yet so far. It was Clara who helped her stay grounded. The two had become inseparable, and Clara was more than just a guide through Maya's transformation. She was a source of strength. One afternoon, they were at Clara's apartment, sipping tea and laughing about their chaotic week at the office. "I can't believe you stood up to Amanda," Clara exclaimed, grinning from ear to ear. Amanda was the queen of office gossip, and she had been one of Maya's biggest tormentors. But that morning, when Amanda had made a snide remark about Maya's new hairstyle, Maya had calmly put her in her place, leaving Amanda speechless. Maya smiled at the memory. "I guess I'm finally learning how to stand up for myself." Clara reached out and squeezed her hand. "It's not just about your appearance, Maya. It's about how you're finally seeing yourself. You've always been strong. You just needed to believe it." Maya blushed, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. It was true. She had changed. But the change wasn't just on the outside. Clara had helped her see the beauty in self-worth, in knowing she didn't need validation from others to feel good about herself. And yet, there was still one person whose opinion she cared about more than she'd like to admit. "What about Liam?" Clara asked, as if reading her mind. Maya's smile faltered. "I don't know. He's been different lately. I catch him looking at me, and he's been stopping by my desk more often, but he's still with Sophie." "I can't get involved, Clara. I won't be that woman." Clara nodded. "You're right, but relationships like his and Sophie's don't last. Trust me, Maya, he's seeing you for who you are now, and I think he's realizing that Sophie might not be the woman he thought she was." The thought was bittersweet. Part of Maya wanted to hope, but she had been guarding her heart for so long that it felt safer to keep her expectations low. Still, Clara's words lingered in her mind. One late evening at the office, Maya was finishing up some paperwork when Liam walked into her small corner of the world. He had a troubled look on his face, one she had seen more and more lately. "Maya," he said, his voice soft and a little worn, "do you have a minute?" Her heart skipped a beat, but she kept her composure. "Of course. Is everything okay?" He sat down across from her, running a hand through his hair. There was something different about him tonight. He seemed tired, not just physically, but emotionally. "I've been thinking a lot lately," he began, his eyes locking onto hers. "About the company, about life, and about you." Maya's breath caught in her throat. She didn't know how to respond, so she said nothing, waiting for him to continue. "I haven't always been the best boss," he admitted, his gaze faltering. "I haven't paid attention to the people around me like I should have. But you, Maya, you've always been there, always doing more than you're asked. I don't think I've ever really thanked you." Maya blinked, feeling her heart race. Was this really happening? Was Liam finally seeing her? Before she could respond, he continued, "And I haven't been honest with myself either, especially about Sophie." Her heart sank a little, even though she had expected this topic to come up. Liam's voice grew heavier with emotion as he spoke about the unraveling of his relationship with Sophie. He explained how things had been tense between them for months, how Sophie's jealousy and controlling nature had pushed him to the edge. He wasn't sure where things were going, but he knew one thing: he wasn't happy. "I don't know what to do, Maya," he confessed, his vulnerability catching her off guard. "I've been holding on to something that's already broken." Maya swallowed hard. She had spent so many nights dreaming of this moment, Liam opening up to her, seeing her as more than just a background figure in his life. But now that it was happening, she wasn't sure what to say. "You deserve to be happy, Liam," she said gently. "But you also deserve to be with someone who respects you, who loves you for who you are." Her words seemed to hang in the air between them, and for a moment Liam simply stared at her, as if seeing her in a new light. "I think you're right," he finally said, his voice soft. "But it's not that simple. Sophie and we've been together for so long. I don't know how to just walk away." Maya felt a pang of empathy. She knew what it was like to feel stuck, to hold on to something out of fear of the unknown. But she also knew that Liam was too good a man to stay in a relationship that was slowly destroying him. "If you're not happy," she said carefully, "then maybe it's time to let go." Liam sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "Maybe you're right. I need time." The vulnerability in his voice tugged at her heart, and for a brief moment she allowed herself to hope. But she quickly pushed the thought away. Liam was still with Sophie, and until he made a decision, she couldn't let herself get too close. The conversation ended on a quiet note, and Liam left the office shortly after, leaving Maya to sit in the stillness of the room, her heart heavy with both longing and uncertainty. The next day, everything felt like it was on the brink of change. Liam and Sophie were at the office, but Maya noticed the tension between them. It was subtle, an avoidance in their glances, a stiffness in their interactions, but it was there. And for the first time, Maya felt like things were moving in a direction that would eventually give her the chance to truly be seen by Liam. But she didn't want to rush it. As Clara had always reminded her, patience was key. And so Maya focused on herself, continuing to grow into the woman she was meant to be, all the while hoping that when the time was right, Liam would make the choice that would set them both free. Unbeknownst to Maya, Sophie wasn't blind to the changes happening either. The tension that simmered between her and Liam was only the beginning. Sophie had begun to notice Liam's subtle shifts, the way his gaze lingered on Maya a little too long, the way he seemed more distant when they were together. Sophie wasn't going to let go easily. And whatever lay ahead, Maya's quiet journey to self-worth would soon collide with Sophie's desperate grasp for control. The real battle was just beginning. Maya had grown used to the subtle glances, the quiet conversations with Liam that felt like secret confessions. But now, something more tangible was changing. Liam's distance from Sophie was no longer just emotional. It was becoming visible to everyone in the office. Sophie, for her part, was no longer the radiant woman she once was. The polished exterior she wore like armor began to crack, revealing a deep insecurity that no one had seen before. She had always been the center of attention, the one everyone admired, and now it seemed like that attention was slipping away, right into the hands of someone like Maya. At first, Sophie didn't take Maya seriously. She dismissed her as insignificant, the quiet secretary with a bad hairdo and smudged makeup. But over the last few months, Sophie had noticed Maya's transformation, and the thought gnawed at her. The very woman she had always thought beneath her was becoming a threat. It all came to a head one chilly Friday afternoon. Maya was at her desk, engrossed in a project, when Liam approached her. His eyes, always warm and inviting, lingered on her as if trying to read the thoughts behind her calm expression. Sophie watched from across the room, her arms folded tightly over her chest. "Hey, Maya," Liam said softly, offering a smile that sent butterflies fluttering through her stomach. "Do you have a minute to go over the upcoming reports?" She nodded, and together they walked to his office, unaware of the storm brewing in Sophie's eyes. The door closed behind them, and for the next half hour they worked through the details of the reports. But Maya could sense there was more on Liam's mind. After a long pause, Liam leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. "You know, I've been thinking about what you said the other night, about letting go of things that aren't working." Maya's heart skipped a beat. She wasn't sure where this conversation was going, but she nodded, keeping her expression neutral. "Sophie and I," he continued, his voice heavy with emotion, "we've been having problems for a long time. I thought we could fix things, but the more I try, the worse it gets." Maya remained silent, not wanting to push him. She knew that this was something he had to figure out on his own. Liam met her eyes, his gaze searching. "It's just being around you, Maya. It's made me realize that there are people in my life who see me for who I really am. I've been holding on to something because it's familiar, but I'm not sure it's what I want anymore." Maya's breath caught in her throat, and for a brief, wild moment, she wondered if he was about to confess something more than just frustration about his relationship. But before either of them could speak, the door burst open. Sophie stood in the doorway, her face flushed with anger. "So this is what you do when I'm not around?" she hissed, her eyes darting between Liam and Maya. Maya froze, feeling her heart slam against her chest. Sophie's presence filled the room with an icy tension, and Maya quickly stood up, gathering her things. "I should go—" "No, stay!" Sophie snapped, her voice sharp and laced with venom. "I'd like to know what's going on here." "Sophie, calm down," Liam said, his voice steady but firm. "We were just going over work." "Oh, work!" Sophie scoffed, her gaze locking onto Maya with a deadly intensity. "Is that what they call it now? Late-night meetings, coffee breaks that last too long. Don't think I haven't noticed the way you look at her." Maya felt her face flush with embarrassment and fear. She didn't know what to say, how to defend herself against Sophie's accusations without making things worse. "Sophie, that's enough," Liam said, his voice rising slightly. "This is not what you think." Sophie let out a bitter laugh, her eyes brimming with hurt and fury. "Of course it's not. It's never what I think, is it? You've been pulling away for months, and now I know why." Liam stood, trying to remain calm. "Sophie, we need to talk about us, not Maya." But Sophie wasn't listening. Her anger had taken over, and she turned to Maya, her voice cutting like a knife. "Did you think I wouldn't notice? That you could just swoop in and take him from me with your little makeover? You don't belong here, Maya. You never did." Maya's chest tightened, the sting of Sophie's words hitting harder than she expected. But instead of shrinking away like she might have before, something inside her stirred. Clara's voice echoed in her mind. "You deserve to be here. You deserve to be seen." "I'm not trying to take anything from you, Sophie," Maya said quietly but firmly, meeting Sophie's gaze. "And I never will." Sophie's eyes flashed with indignation, but Maya held her ground. For the first time, she wasn't going to let someone else's insecurity make her feel small. Liam stepped between them, his hand raised in a gesture of peace. "This is not Maya's fault. It's ours, Sophie. We've been falling apart for a long time." Sophie's face crumpled at his words. She had been holding on to him so tightly, trying to control everything, but now the truth was undeniable. Her grip on him had slipped, and she knew it. "I don't deserve this," she whispered, her voice breaking. Without another word, she turned on her heel and left the office, the door slamming behind her. The silence that followed was suffocating. Maya stood frozen, not sure what had just happened, and Liam let out a long breath, running a hand through his hair. "I'm so sorry, Maya," he said, his voice full of guilt. "You shouldn't have been caught in the middle of that." Maya shook her head, still processing what had just unfolded. "It's not your fault. I didn't mean for any of this to happen." Liam's eyes softened as he looked at her. "None of this is your fault. Sophie and I were already broken. You didn't cause that." For a moment, they just stood there, the tension in the room slowly dissipating. Maya felt her heart pounding in her chest, but she knew that things were far from over. Sophie's anger wasn't just going to disappear, and Maya knew that this confrontation had only set the stage for something bigger. The following days were tense. Sophie avoided both Maya and Liam, but her presence was still felt like a shadow that hovered over the office. Whispers filled the hallways, and Maya could feel the eyes of her co-workers on her more than ever. One afternoon, Clara pulled Maya aside. "Hey, are you okay? I heard about what happened in Liam's office." Maya sighed, running a hand through her now neatly styled hair. "I'm fine, I think, but I can't shake the feeling that Sophie's not done with this." Clara frowned. "Yeah, she doesn't strike me as someone who lets go easily. Just be careful, okay? She's not the kind of person who's going to go down without a fight." "No." Maya nodded, the weight of Clara's words settling in her chest. She could feel it too. Sophie wasn't going to let this go. And even though Liam had begun to distance himself from Sophie, Maya knew that the path ahead was fraught with dangers she hadn't expected. As she sat back at her desk, Maya glanced at Liam's office door, her heart heavy with the uncertainty of what was to come. For years, she had loved him from afar, never imagining that she would be caught in the middle of such a storm. Now, she wasn't sure what the future held, but one thing was clear. This was far from over, and Sophie, she wasn't done with them yet. The days following Sophie's explosive outburst felt like a whirlwind for Maya. The tension at the office was palpable, and every interaction with Liam seemed fraught with unspoken words and lingering questions. Sophie hadn't made any direct moves since storming out of the office, but the silence felt ominous. It was like the calm before a storm. Everyone sensed it, even if they couldn't see it yet. Maya tried to focus on her work, but it was hard. She hadn't meant to get involved in Liam and Sophie's crumbling relationship, but it seemed inevitable now. Her feelings for Liam, long buried beneath layers of fear and uncertainty, were surfacing, and she had to admit to herself that she wanted more than his stolen glances and quiet conversations. But Maya wasn't naive. Sophie was still very much a presence in Liam's life, and Maya knew Sophie wasn't going to let go easily. One afternoon, as Maya sat at her desk reviewing some reports, Sophie walked into the office, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. Maya's pulse quickened. Sophie hadn't been around for a few days, and her sudden reappearance sent a chill down Maya's spine. Sophie looked different, poised, controlled, and with an icy determination in her eyes. This wasn't the hurt and angry Sophie who had stormed out of Liam's office. This was someone with a plan. Sophie made her way to Maya's desk, her lips curling into a tight smile. "Maya, darling," she said, her voice sickly sweet. "Can we talk?" Maya glanced up, her heart pounding. "Sure," she replied cautiously, not knowing what to expect. Sophie motioned toward the break room, and Maya hesitated for a moment before standing up to follow her. The other employees in the office watched with thinly veiled curiosity, sensing the tension between the two women. Once they were alone in the break room, Sophie closed the door and leaned against it, her eyes narrowing as she studied Maya. For a long moment neither of them spoke, the air thick with anticipation. Finally, Sophie broke the silence. "You've made quite an impression on Liam, haven't you?" Maya blinked, unsure how to respond. "I don't—" "Oh, don't play innocent," Sophie interrupted, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "You think I haven't noticed? You think I don't see the way he looks at you now? It's pathetic, really." Maya straightened her back, refusing to be intimidated. "Sophie, whatever's happening between you and Liam, it's not my fault. You can't blame me for what's going wrong in your relationship." Sophie's eyes flashed with anger, but she quickly regained control, her lips curling into a bitter smile. "Oh, I don't blame you for the cracks, Maya. Those have been there for a while. But you—" She stepped closer, her voice lowering to a dangerous whisper. "You're trying to take what's mine." Maya felt a surge of frustration and hurt rising in her chest. She hadn't tried to take anything from Sophie. She had never wanted to be in the middle of their drama. But the accusation stung nonetheless. "I'm not trying to take Liam from you," Maya said firmly, meeting Sophie's cold gaze. "I've been respectful of your relationship from the start, but maybe it's time you ask yourself if you're holding on to something that's already broken." Sophie's expression hardened. "You really think you can replace me? Do you have any idea what you're dealing with, Maya? You're just a secretary, a nobody. Liam may be entertaining your little makeover for now, but don't fool yourself. You'll never be more than a distraction to him." Maya's fists clenched at her sides, but she forced herself to stay calm. "This isn't about me," she said quietly. "It's about you and Liam. You can't force someone to stay in a relationship just because you're afraid of losing control." Sophie's eyes flickered with something, fear perhaps, but she quickly masked it with a sneer. "Control? Is that what you think this is? I've built a life with Liam. You think you can waltz in and take that from me? I won't let that happen, Maya. I'm not going down without a fight." Maya's stomach twisted with unease. She could see now that Sophie wasn't just angry, she was desperate. And desperate people did dangerous things. That evening, Maya confided in Clara. They were sitting in Clara's apartment, the warm glow of the city lights filtering through the windows as they sipped tea, the tension from the day still hanging over them. "I don't know what to do," Maya admitted, her hands wrapped around her cup. "Sophie's convinced I'm trying to steal Liam from her, but I don't want to be the reason their relationship ends. It's a mess, Clara. I never wanted any of this." Clara looked at her with sympathy. "Maya, you can't control what's happening between Liam and Sophie. Their relationship is already falling apart, and that's not on you. You've spent so long denying your own feelings, and now you're stuck in this weird limbo where you feel guilty for something that isn't even your fault." Maya bit her lip, staring into her tea. "But Sophie's right about one thing. I'm just a secretary. I'm not like her. I don't know if I'll ever fit into Liam's world." Clara sighed and placed a reassuring hand on Maya's arm. "You need to stop thinking of yourself like that. You've grown so much, Maya. You're not the same woman who hid behind her desk, scared of being noticed. Liam sees you now, and not just because of your looks. He sees you because you've always been someone worth seeing." Maya blinked back tears, her heart full of gratitude for Clara's unwavering support. But even as Clara's words soothed her, the fear of what Sophie might do next loomed large in her mind. The next few days at the office were tense. Sophie had pulled back, but her absence was more unsettling than her presence. Maya couldn't shake the feeling that Sophie was planning something, and that feeling grew stronger when she saw Liam one morning, looking more drained than she had ever seen him. Liam stopped by her desk, his usual warm smile replaced by a look of weariness. "Maya, can we talk for a second?" She nodded, following him to his office. Once the door was closed, he leaned against his desk, running a hand through his hair. "Things with Sophie are getting worse." Maya's heart sank. "What happened?" Liam sighed heavily. "She's been making threats. She thinks I'm leaving her for you, and now she's threatening to ruin both of us. She's been digging into your past, trying to find anything she can use against you." Maya's blood ran cold. "My past?" Liam nodded, his eyes full of regret. "She's desperate, Maya. I never thought it would come to this, but she's trying to sabotage your career. She's talking to the board, trying to paint you as some kind of manipulative employee, saying you've been unprofessional, that you're trying to use me to climb the corporate ladder." Maya's heart pounded in her chest. Sophie wasn't just angry. She was out for revenge, and Maya was in her crosshairs. "What do I do?" Maya asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam stepped closer, his expression softening. "I won't let her do this to you, Maya. You've done nothing wrong. I'm going to put a stop to this once and for all." Maya's mind swirled with anxiety. Sophie wasn't just targeting her professionally. She was trying to destroy her. And the worst part was that Maya had no idea how far Sophie was willing to go. That night, Maya barely slept. Sophie's threat hung over her like a dark cloud, and the fear of losing everything she had worked for gnawed at her. She had finally begun to feel confident, to feel like she was making a place for herself in the world, and now it could all be taken away because of a woman's desperate jealousy. Maya had never been in a fight like this before, and she didn't know how to protect herself from someone like Sophie. But one thing was clear. This wasn't just about love anymore. It was about survival. The next day, Maya walked into the office with a renewed sense of purpose. She wasn't going to let Sophie destroy her, not without a fight. If this was war, Maya wasn't going to be a casualty. But as she sat at her desk trying to focus on her work, she couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. Sophie had drawn the battle lines, and Maya wasn't sure if she was ready for the war that was about to begin. On Monday morning, Maya arrived at the office to find that rumors were swirling about her. There were whispers in the break room, furtive glances thrown her way, and a few smirks from the people who had always been quick to judge her. Maya's heart sank as she realized that Sophie's campaign against her had begun. She could feel the weight of the lies that had been spread, rumors about her supposedly trying to seduce Liam, manipulate her way into a promotion, and break apart his relationship with Sophie. Her hands trembled as she sat at her desk, trying to stay calm. The walls of the office, which had once felt like a place of progress and growth, now seemed to close in around her. She felt trapped, suffocated by the judgment and the mounting pressure. Clara found her at lunch, her expression full of concern. "I heard what people are saying. Are you okay?" Maya shook her head, unable to hold back the tears any longer. "I don't know what to do. Sophie's turned everyone against me, and now it feels like everything I've worked for is slipping away." Clara sat beside her, her voice soft but firm. "You can't let her win, Maya. You've come too far to let Sophie destroy you, and you're not alone in this. Liam's with you." The thought of Liam gave Maya a brief moment of comfort, but it was quickly overshadowed by doubt. What if Sophie's lies ruined more than just her career? What if they destroyed any chance she had with Liam? Later that afternoon, Maya was summoned to the boardroom. Her heart raced as she walked through the hallway, knowing exactly what this meeting was about. When she entered the room, she saw several board members seated at the long table, with Sophie sitting smugly at one end, her arms crossed, her face an icy mask of control. Liam was there too, standing by the window, his expression tense. "Maya," one of the board members began, his voice neutral but serious. "There have been some concerning allegations brought to our attention. We need to discuss your behavior in the office." Maya's mouth went dry, but she forced herself to remain composed. "What kind of allegations?" Sophie spoke before anyone else could answer. "Maya has been trying to manipulate her way up the corporate ladder by getting involved with Liam. She's used underhanded tactics, spreading rumors and attempting to seduce him for her own gain. I've known Liam for years, and I can't stand by while someone like her tries to ruin him in this company." Maya's heart clenched at the sound of Sophie's voice, dripping with false righteousness. She wanted to scream, to defend herself, but she knew that reacting emotionally would only make things worse. Liam stepped forward, his eyes hard as he looked at Sophie. "That's enough, Sophie." Sophie's smug expression faltered, a flicker of uncertainty passing over her face. "What?" "I said that's enough," Liam repeated, his voice steady and resolute. "This isn't about Maya. It's about us. Our relationship has been falling apart for months, and you know that. You're trying to blame her because you're afraid to face the truth, but I won't let you do that." Sophie's face paled, and for a moment she looked almost vulnerable. "Liam, We're over, Sophie," Liam said firmly. "We've been over for a long time. I didn't want to hurt you, but I can't let you destroy Maya because of your insecurities." The room fell silent, the board members watching the exchange with wide eyes. Sophie looked stricken, as if the reality of the situation was finally hitting her. For so long, she had clung to the idea of her perfect relationship with Liam, convinced that she could control the narrative. But now, everything was unraveling, and she was powerless to stop it. You're choosing her over me?" Sophie whispered, her voice shaking. "This isn't about choosing anyone over you," Liam said, his tone softer now but no less resolute. "It's about me wanting to live my life honestly, and you need to do the same. We're not right for each other, Sophie. You know that." Sophie's eyes filled with tears, and for a brief moment, Maya almost felt sorry for her. But then Sophie's face twisted with anger again, and she shot a venomous glare at Maya. "You'll regret this," she spat at Liam before storming out of the room. The boardroom was still for a moment, everyone processing what had just happened. Then one of the senior members cleared his throat. "It seems there's been a misunderstanding here. Maya, we apologize for the accusations. It's clear this was a personal matter, and we will not be pursuing this any further." Maya let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Relief washed over her, but it was tinged with exhaustion. She had survived the battle, but it had taken its toll. The board members filed out, and soon it was just her and Liam standing alone in the room. Liam looked at her, his expression filled with regret. "Maya, I'm so sorry," he said softly, stepping closer. "I never wanted you to get dragged into all of this." Maya shook her head, trying to find the right words. "It's not your fault, Liam. I knew what I was getting into the moment I started having feelings for you. But it's over now, and I'm just glad the truth came out." Liam hesitated for a moment, his gaze searching her face. "Maya, this might not be the best time to say this, but I need you to know something. I've been a coward, avoiding the truth for too long. I didn't realize what I had in front of me until recently, and I'm not talking about Sophie." Maya's heart began to race as Liam's words sank in. Could this really be happening? "I've fallen for you, Maya," Liam confessed, his voice low but sincere. "I think I've known it for a while now, but I was too afraid to admit it, afraid of what it would mean, of how it would change everything. But I don't want to run from it anymore." Maya's breath hitched as she looked up at him, her mind reeling. She had dreamed of this moment for so long, but now that it was here, it felt almost surreal. "You don't have to say anything right now," Liam continued, stepping even closer. "I just needed you to know how I feel." Maya felt her chest tighten with emotion, and for a moment she was afraid to speak. But then, slowly, a smile spread across her face. "I feel the same way," she whispered, her voice trembling with the weight of the admission. Liam's eyes softened, and for the first time in what felt like forever, Maya felt like the world had stopped spinning. It was just the two of them, standing in the quiet of the boardroom, the chaos of the past few months falling away like autumn leaves. The weeks that followed were a blur of new beginnings. Sophie resigned from the company shortly after her outburst, leaving behind a trail of broken promises and bitter memories. Maya, on the other hand, was given a promotion, one she had earned, not because of her connection to Liam, but because of the hard work and dedication she had shown from the start. Liam and Maya began dating quietly, taking things one step at a time. Their relationship wasn't rushed, nor was it built on the ashes of the past. It was something new, something real. For the first time, Maya felt like she was standing on solid ground, both in her career and in her heart. Months later, Liam proposed in the quiet corner of the park where they had once shared lunch together during a stressful workday. Maya said yes with tears in her eyes, knowing that their journey had been anything but easy, but that made their love all the more worth it. They were married in a small, intimate ceremony surrounded by close friends, with Clara beaming proudly from the front row. As they exchanged vows, Maya thought back to the woman she had been when she first walked into Alden and Hughes, timid, unsure, and hiding behind a mask of insecurity. She could hardly believe how far she had come, how much she had grown. In the years that followed, Maya and Liam built a life together, full of love, laughter, and eventually the pitter-patter of little feet. They had 2 children, a boy and a girl, and their home was filled with the kind of happiness that only comes from overcoming trials together. Through it all, Maya never forgot the lesson she had learned, the importance of loving oneself, of standing up for who you are, and of never letting anyone else define your worth. Her journey had been long and difficult, but it had led her to a place of true love, where she and Liam could finally be at peace, knowing they had found something real. And in the end, that was all that mattered. Ma.